where you act one way, but on the inside you're not. But this Kohen that I will choose will be a Kohen Neman. Uvaniti lo bayit Neman. And this is referring to like a dynasty. The Kohanim will come not from your family, but from this new Kohen that I'm going to choose. And he will remain the Kohen Gadol until Mashiach comes. Anyone left in your family, will bow down to that Kohen, just to get a little shtickle from, because remember, each Kohanic family would go to the Beis Hamikdash to share in the korbanos. That's what the lot of your progeny will be. The Omar Sfachenina alachas hakuhunos lechol pas lechem. They'll beg to be attached to one of the families in order to be able to eat a little piece of bread. Okay, that brings us to the beginning of Perek Gimel.
This seems like a very strong punishment to Eli.
So it's very good. Right when I was going to give her the following. What is this great sin of the Bnei Eli that it's so strong? So Mikol Zenira, Shechet shel Bnei Eli haya gadol ma'od, v'yesh lihitbonen lama. This is really an amazing diatribe against Eli and his family. How great is the sin of the sons of Eli? I'm reading from the Iyei Hayam. What's a Kohen? They're supposed to be servants of Hashem. They're the intermediary. They're the shaliach between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Klal Yisrael. Their job is to bring Yisrael close to Hashem. They took it all for personal gain. Well, all of this got out through the rumor mill, what was going on. So Jews stayed home. They did not go to Mishkan Shiloh. They said, well, why would you go to that place? There's corruption there. So people stayed away. When people went to the Beis Hamikdash or to the Mishkan, they became close to Hashem through what they saw, through the Nisim. However, people didn't go. Zeb p'giyah gdola b'hakurva ben Hashem l'Yisrael. So what Chofni and Pinchas, we don't care about the corruption. We care about the fact that he prevented Klal Yisrael from becoming close to Hashem. This is something that Hashem could not permit. And v'od nireh, mishum de'eli haya chelik mishal shelat haTorah. We just said, we quoted the Rambam. Do you know how many people? There's 20 people in the chain until Rabbi Yehuda Nossi. It's a very small chain from Moshe Rabbeinu till Rabbi Yehuda Nossi, when Rabbi Yehuda Nossi wrote down the Mishnah. And can you imagine Eli Cohen is in that shalshelet? Ubanav, his sons, b'nahagatam lo hayu ru'uyim lamshich shalshelet hazeh, liot mimamadei ha'mesorah. So, number one, they were going to be pushed aside because they could not be part of this shalshelet. Lefichach ratzah Kadosh Baruch Hu shelo yasu tshuva v'shelo yeh lehem chelek b'mesoras haTorah b'Yisrael v'sheyeh mesorah me'eli l'Shmuel. It was a tachpula. It was sort of like a conspiracy, so that the sons of Eli would be out of the picture, so it could go to another tzaddik like Shmuel HaNavi.
What was Eli's sin? That he couldn't control his sons?
Correct, and he didn't give them it. And I'm gonna read something soon in terms of why Eli was punished so severely. But yes, he didn't. Whoever, like we learned last time, remember we said Chofni and Pinchas. So one of them, remember, didn't do any of the Averis. The Averis were done by one of the brothers. What was the sin of the other brother? He didn't protest. He didn't stop his brother. So Eli suffers from the same machla. And then, what's so special about Shmuel? That pasuk where we said, "Va'anar Shmuel holech v'gadel v'tov, gam im Hashem v'gam im anoshim." Shmuel was good both with Hashem and with people. Remember, Chana davened for v'natata lamatcha zera anashim. And we asked, the Gemara asked, "My zera, what does that mean, zera anashim?" So there's machlokas Rav and Shmuel. Shmuel said a person who is going to anoint two great people, Shaul and David. Rav Yochanan said, "Zera sheshakol kishnei anashim, umaninu Moshe v'Aaron." Shmuel is compared to Moshe. That's why there's a pasuk in Tehillim, Moshe v'Aaron b'cho anav, u'Shmuel b'korei shmo. We read that pasuk by Kabbalah Shabbos. What's the pshat? Shenemar. Moshe was din. He was with Hashem. He made sure that Klal Yisrael would follow din. However, Aaron hayerodei sholem the oev pshara. Aaron didn't go after din. He tried compromise because he was an oev sholem the roidev sholem. You know, when you do din, one guy is a victor, the other guy loses, and there's hard feeling, and there's more chance for machlokas. So when Aaron was an oev sholem rodev sholem, when it came to disputes between two people, compromise was what Aaron tried to do. Says the this is the Me'am Loes, that Shmuel hayashnei advarim. This is the understanding. What does it mean? Moshe v'Aaron b'choanav v'Shmuel b'kor. Why is Shmuel compared to both of them? So the pshat is Shmuel had both of these characteristics. Shahaya hoylech b'darchei Noam. He went in a very pleasant way. Hayemesavev ba'arim v'ayaros lahashkin shalom ben Yisrael ba'ofen shelo hayu boim lidei riv v'lo hayu tzrichim ladun. So he was interested in din. He was the dayan. He was the shofet. He went around and made sure the din was done, but he did it in a way like Aaron HaKohen as well. So he was a combination of the two, of Moshe and Aaron. And again, that's the Maila of Shmuel, why Hashem wanted the Masorah to go through Shmuel. We learned a pasuk in Chav Zayin where it says, "Haniglo niglesi." Didn't I reveal myself? Didn't I reveal myself to Aaron HaKohen? So, Masechta Megillah Daf Chav Tes, Rav Shimon ben Yochai Omer, Bo re'ei kama chavivin Yisrael ifnei Kodesh Baruch Hu. Look how beloved Klal Yisrael was to Hashem. Shebechol makom shegalu Shechina imahem. Whenever they went into exile, the Shechina went with them. Galu leMitzrayim, Shechina imahem. Shenamar haniglo niglesi al beis avicha b'yosam b'Mitzrayim. It's from this pasuk that the Shechina appeared to Aaron HaKohen even before Moshe Rabbeinu was in the picture, when Aaron was the Gadol Hador in Mitzrayim. Galu leBavel, Shechina imam. Shenamar Yishayahu lemanchem shalcha bavela. Period. Va'av kishem ad she'atinim ligol Shechina imam. In the future, Klal Yisrael is going to be galus for all that time before Mashiach comes. The Shechina will be there. Shenamar v'shav Hashem Elokecha shvucha v'richamecha. It doesn't say v'heishiv lo nemer el v'shav. Melamed she'Hakadosh Baruch Hu shav imoim mibein hagalios. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to come back to Eretz Yisrael with us when we go back. That is this thing.
I thought that the Shechina left by the time of the second Beis Hamikdash.
Yes, and the Shechina is with us and will come back. That's V'shav. That's that pasuk in Dvorim. V'shav Hashem Elokecha eshvucha v'richamecha. It doesn't say that he will. He is going to return with us. Melamed HaKadosh Baruch Hu shavi mo'em mibein hagoliyos. He's with us in Golus and he's going to come back with us. Because it says in Yeshayahu, Ve'estakei ushval ruach, you are going to be low of spirit. Lachayot ruach shefalim, ulachayot lev nitkaim. In order to revive spirits that have been low. V'imkein ve'ich Yisrael shruim begoyla. When Klal Yisrael's in Golus, shehem shfelim v'nitkaim, bedinu shashchina tichyei ma'em. The Shechina should be with them. They should tamidim dakeh ushval ruach. The Shechina goes with people who are low. Now you might think of as managula shiyif sukum elios nitkoim. When Mashiach comes, we're not going to be low in spirit anymore. Maybe efsher hu shashchina tistalik mehem. So maybe the Shechina won't be with us. Lachein amru shegam az hashchina tiyei moim. So that's okay. So that's the concept of the fact that Aaron HaKohen was given nevuah in Mitzrayim. Now, there's a famous Ramban in Breishis Mem Vav who asks, the Ramban doesn't understand. First of all, it says, when Yaakov and his family were going to go down, it says, Anochi Eiredim Cha Mitzrayma. That Hashem told them, I'm going to go down with you. Now, Davar says, I'm just going to read you the language of the Ramban. Davar Zeh Koishi Avana. Ma zeh shegoyla Shechina. What does it mean that the Shechina goes into Golus with us? Harei Shechina b'chol makom. Isn't the Shechina everywhere? Heich shaykh liglois. What does it mean that the Shechina goes into exile somewhere? V'od, Shechina dover gashmi, sheshaykh loimer alav sheyigla l'makom acher? Is the Shechina some kind of physical thing that goes somewhere? That's the Ramban. The Rashba says, Kol makom shegolu bo Yisrael gol shechina, kloimar, hishgichu aleinu lichmo al afilu be'eit ansho osanu. This concept of the Shechina, I think it's a little bit of a pshat answering the Ramban. Rashba says, what it means that the Shechina goes to Golus with us, it's in a sense, he has Rachmanis on us, wherever, even when he's punishing us, he goes with us, in a sense. Now, we talked about this, ki mechabed achabed ubozu yekolu. Those that honor me, I honor them. Those that are mevazem me, those that scorn me, I scorn them. On Rav Yirmiyah, this is in Breishis Rabbah. Hichmer HaKadosh Baruch al kvodo, shel tzadik yoter mikvodo. Hashem takes care of the covet of his tzaddikim more than his own covet. Bichvodo ksiv ki mechabdai achabed ubozo yekelu al yedei acherim. There, the curse is going to go through a shaliach. But uvichvodo shel tzadik ksiv va'avarecha mevarchecha umekalelcha aor. Right? When he benches Avram, he says, whoever blesses Avram, I will bench him. And whoever curses Avram, I will curse him. So he actually treats the covet of his tzaddikim more. He takes care of the covet of his tzaddikim more than of his own self. And a punishment that comes through a shaliach is much worse than if HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself punishes you. Is also, like we see Paro, Shechiref ba'atzmo nifra HaKadosh Baruch Hu mimenu ba'atzmo. HaKadosh Baruch Hu who said, who is Hashem that I should believe in him? So Paro, So Paro gets punished directly by Hashem. Sancheriv, shechirif al yedei shaliach, nifra kodesh baruch ben al yedei shaliach. Perish Rashi, the Paro shechirif al yedei atzmo la yabiziu kol kach. When Paro himself did it, the embarrassment if the punishment is done by Hashem itself is less embarrassment. A big person embarrasses you is not so bad as opposed to a small person who embarrasses you. So that's one pshat in this concept of ki mechabai echabed. Now, in the pasuk that we learned, amor amarti, beis choves avicha yisalach l'fanai ad olam. Initially, your Kohanic house was going to remain forever. And this is an important Eliyahu Rabbah. The Osar Shashal Pilegesh Begiva, Nitla Kuhuna Mibnei Elezer ben Aaron. Vitnitna Kuna Libnei Tomer ben Aaron Ad Shekilkelu Bnei Eli. So let's remember, who was the Kohen Gadol after Aaron HaKohen? It was Elazar, his son. Remember, when they take Aaron HaKohen up into Hor HaHar, Moshe Rabbeinu goes up, takes the clothes off Aaron HaKohen, dresses Elazar. They go up with Aaron HaKohen, then he comes down with Elazar, his son, who's the new Kohen Gadol. Who's the Kohen Gadol after Elazar? Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen. So the Kohanic Gedula was following the line of Elazar. Now, Aaron HaKohen had 4 sons, Nadav Avihu, Elazar v'Itamar. Now, we know what happened to Nadav Avihu. They died in this week's Parsha by Yom HaShmini. Left Elazar. So, however, if you remember when we learned the story of Pilegesh Begiva, Pinchas is called to task. Why isn't Pinchas taking care of this? So says the Eliyahu Rabbah, at that point, the right to be the Kohen Gadol was taken away from Elazar and given to the Bnei Itamar. Eli is from the children of Itamar. Ache Kilkelu Bnei Eli. And the house of Itamar was forever going to be the Kohanim Gedolim until the sons of Eli. Miyad Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ma ben zelazeh, v'alo Elazar hu ben Aaron, v'itamar hu ben Aaron. They're both the children of Aaron. Shnei Amar, it says in Yeshayahu, Samech Gimel, va'abit ve'ein ozer, ve'eshtomem ve'ein somech. Ba'ot hashah Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, shetachzor ha'kahuna lebaleha. At that time, when Eli said, you know what, the Kohanic Gedul should go back to Elazar. Shnei Amar, Amor amarti beitcha ve'tavicha yitalchu lefanai ad olam. I had said initially that once I took away the Kohanic Gedula from Pinchas and gave it to Itamar, it should remain with your house forever. But now, va'atanu Hashem chalilali, va'akimoti li kohen Naaman. I'm going to eventually make a kohen Naaman, kasher bilvaviv nafshi yaseh. Uvanita lo bayit Naaman. I'm going to build for him a house. V'yitalach lefanai meshichei kol hayamim. Who is that? Zeu tzorek HaKohen. It stays in the house of Eli until the time of David HaMelech. At that time, Tzorek HaKohen, who is again from the house of Elazar, is appointed the Kohen Gadol, and it remains forever from the Bnei Tzadok. And that's why, for example, my Bar Mitzvah Parsha, Parshas Emor, it says, V'hakohanim alvi Bnei Tzadok. The Kohanic Gedolim remain in the family of Tzadok forever. So, Hamaymer Hazeh, I'm reading the Musar Nevi'im. Rashi brings all of this. Mitchila natati kuna gdol Elazar HaKohen, shenemar v'avshetet Aaron et bgadav, v'yilbashtam et Elazar beno, you shall dress Elazar. Then uvimei pilegesh begiva, Shepakri Yisrael Barova Mitzvos. Mikaram Lehem Pinchas. Who created this problem of Pilegish? Pinchas v'Chayotzebo. Sha'ayal l'Savim ear to ear. They should have gone. Pinchas should have gone from city to city. Ulochicham, give him musar. No talti akun agdorlo mehem. Unati lecha. I gave it to you, Eli. Shebnei Tamarata, because you are from the Hamli of Tamar. The Amarti talchul fanei adoilam, and you're going to remain the Kohanim Gadol forever. Because kishaposkim lo yigdulu lo, and poskim lo the rest of adoilam. When you give something to a family, it remains forever. However, now, since Pinchas kibed oti bashitim, right? Kanot kinati. Pinchas, when the Klal Yisrael were sinning with the Benos Moab, Pinchas saved the day. So this saves Pinchas again. Hashem remembers him. V'chein hayta b'mei Shlomo, kishenivne Beit HaMikdash, ksiv, vayigarish Shlomo et Evyatar HaKohen, miyot Kohen LaHashem. Evyatar was the last one who was from the house of Itamar, the children of Eli. Kidvar Hashem asher yibel Beit Eli. V'naset Tzadok Kohen Gadol tachtav shayam et Beit Pinchas. We see that Tzadok HaKohen in Divrei Yomim is miyuchist all the way back to Pinchas. Now,
How many more generations was that after Pinchas and Chafni? That was a short time.
yeah, it's not so long.
Relatively.
It's not so long.
Yeah.
It's not so long. But it's going to be, right? You have the 10 years of Shmuel, then you have Shaul, then you have 37 years of David HaMelech. So there's 57 years until Shlomo builds the Beis HaMikdash and Tzadok HaKohen is instituted. So the pasuk doesn't say it happens right away. It says later on, at some point, the Kohanim Gedolim is going to be ripped from you. Now, those of us who learned Daf Yomi will remember in Sanhedrin Yud Daled, because the pasuk says, "Lo yezaken beveitcha kol hayamim." Your people are not going to grow old. Says the Gemara, "Amar Rav Yonasan minayin shenis nismach leveis Eli." You don't give smicha to people from Beis Eli. Shneimar lo yezaken beveitcha kol hayamim. There shouldn't be an old person. Now, my zaken ilem zaken mamish vaksiv kol marbit beit chayamusu anashim. It can't mean age, because you've already been punished that they're not going to live beyond 18 years of age. Elas smicha. Now, the Gemara that I'm referring to, we had many, Abaya and Rava were from the family of Eli. You notice it doesn't say Rav Abaya and Rav Abba. Abaya and Rava were the two most important Amoraim. The tradition was that they both came from Beis Eli. Rava died at the age of 40, and Abaya lived to 60. He was given 20 years because of Gemilas Chesed. I'll read you another. This is from Rosh Hashanah Yud Ches. V'chol marbis beischa ton rabbanon mishpacha achas ha'isa b'Yushalayim shayu mesim b'nei Yud Ches shana. There was a family in Yerushalayim. Everyone died. They didn't live beyond 18 years of age. Bo v'yadius Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai. They told Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai, Omer lahem shamim mishpachas Eli atem. You're probably from the family of Eli. D'chsiv be'v'chol marbis beischa yamushu anoshim. L'chu ve'isku b'Torah. Go and learn Torah. V'chayu. Holchu v'osku b'Torah v'chayu. V'ayukornu sa mishpachas Rabban Yochanan al Shmo. So by learning Torah, they were able to extend their years. There's also I just want to answer Ellen. Ellen asked, "Tzrichim anu lavin al eze chet over hu Eli." What sin did Eli do? So the Abarbanel says, Yeshlomar, Shekol al Eli b'zeh im bonov. Eli is sort of considered part of this whole with his children, because biyoso Yirei Elokim v'sar meira. He is a Yirei Elokim. Fishi lo yaser as banav karoi. He didn't chastise his children appropriately. V'haya limchos b'ideihem v'lo macha. He was supposed to really protest what they were doing, and he didn't protest enough. And the pasuk says that he did give them tochacha. Ma sholchichem haya b'dvorim rakim. Very light. He's considered as if he sinned because he didn't chastise his children enough. The Merome Soda says, what is Mayase Eli b'masha bonav choitim? What else could Eli have done? He tried to chastise them. V'lo shamu l'kolo. Ela k'moshe koso shulo achiach otam. Ela al mashehema oisim ola liyisrael v'noit liyimoser mechalkam. If you remember the psukim over there, he just told them, you know what, you're taking too much meat from them. The fact that they were doing a chilul of the sacrificial things, he didn't punish them on that. So some people say that's why he was punished.
It reminds me of something that I heard about I guess it's Rabbi Dr. Twersky's father. I think Avraham Twersky said this, that when they were younger and they lived in Milwaukee, they were sort of unusual in their community. And he would tell them, if they did something that he didn't approve of, he would tell them that it doesn't pass for them to do it. And that was enough of a tochacha to them to behave appropriately.
Wow.
Eli was such a model for Shmuel that it's such a contrast that his sons went so off the derech, and yet he was the right person to rear Shmuel.
Even more of a compliment to Shmuel, that Shmuel could have learned from the sons of Eli who Pinchas and didn't.
Right.
By the way, I saw a nice pshat. Rashi brings the pshat that when it says "V'lo yezoken bevescha kol hayamim," what kind of midah connect? Usually Hashem, when he punishes midah connected midah. He punishes based on the sin. So what is the fact that they were cut off in terms of how many years of life they would have? So atem achaltem kodshim lifnei zmanam b'terem yaktirus hachelef. Remember, one of the things they were doing is they were eating of the meat before its time. You got to wait until you maktir the chelef. They were haste. Afatem tamusim below zman. They died before their time. Nice connection between the sin that they did and the punishment that they got. Another very interesting medrash I saw in the Elul Zuta on Vayakol anosar bevescha, those that are going to remain in your family will come to bow down later on. Says the Eliyahu Zuta, Minayin lahanose isha l'shem mamon, sofa shematzrichin oso lacherim. A man who marries a woman because of money, in the end, he's going to come on and he's going to need other people. It means he's going to come on to tzedakah. It means it's not such a, it's not, you don't think that it's the answer to wealth. Sheken matzinu b'vnei Eli hakohen shenasu noshim shelo karoi lehem. The Medrash says they married women that weren't fit for them, implying that they had a lot of money, but maybe they were not milumedos. They were not tzidkonios. L'sof hutzruchu lacherim. Shenemar, like with this pasuk, vayakol nasar bevescha, they'll have to come to eat lechem. So, lekach, I'm reading the Musar Nevi'im. Lekach amru, Shebnei Eli nosu lehem noshim shaloi karoi lehem. Af shelo nizkar davar hazeh b'shum makom. I mean, where did the Medrash get this? I mean, it doesn't say anything about this in the Psukim. Zeu mishum dim lo haysa lehem hashpah ra min shoseyim. Must be that they had bad influence from their wives. Because az bevadai shelo hayu boim l'dei yirida ruchanios kazu. I mean, I don't know whether it's a chauvinistic statement. Is it a chauvinistic statement? No, it seems like, no, I think it's a statement that a wife keeps the man on the straight and narrow. And must be that if they fell off so much because their wives weren't on top of them. Az bevadai shalayu boim l'dei yirida ruchanios kazu. Kere mitzad aviyam tzrich ma'elios tzadikim, like Ellen said. With a father like Eli, they shouldn't have been the biggest tzaddikim. Ki Eli avim hayat tzadik v'kosher. Umizeh tova shenasu lehem noshim shaloi karoi lehem. Must be, the Musar Ravim says, they married improper wives. You don't like that? I think it's a good shot that the wife keeps the man on the straight and narrow.
Blame it on the women.
Blame it on the women.
Blame it on the women.
Well, they blamed it on Chava, right? Okay. I just want, before we go on to Perek Gimel, there is such a concept of lo yumsu banim al avos, right? Children, the Torah promises the children will not be punished because of the sins of the father. Well, how could it be then that for the next hundreds of years, we brought proofs from the Gemara that everybody from the house of Eli would die young, but they're dying because of the sins of their fathers. What about the concept of lo yum subanim alavos? Poked oven avos al banim. How can we do that? So, so we do understand children being punished for the sins of the father if the children are still committing the same sinning type of acts as the father. But you have many people who were not participating in Averis. Why were they punished? Like I said, we mentioned in Masechta Rosh Hashanah that both Abai and Rava, their years were cut short because they were the children of Ne'eli. So the Radak, I just want to read the answer of the Radak. Ha'avona hu haya gadol v'haya bo chilul Hashem. Somehow they saw that even in the future generations, the Chilul Hashem was so great that there wasn't going to be anybody who was machaper for those sins. That's what the Radak wants to say. Then the Sefer HaChasidim says like this. That means if the original Gzeira is that this is the punishment, well, that's the punishment. That it overrides what it says, Elohim Sovas Abanim. Lekach, it happens, Gamal Abanim. Ilav the Yesh Lem is a Schut Godel, like a Baya Verova, Shayalem Schut Toira, or Gab Schus Kmilos Chasodim. Uvazem Afresh Gam Lama Kolo Oilam Nensho Al Chatosh Olam Arishon. Why, when it says that the whole world ended up death, people were supposed to live forever. And then because of the sin of Adam Arishon, we don't live forever. Well, how could that be? What about Lo Yom Sovas Abanim? So he leaves that as a kasha. That's a strong kasha. Okay. So this brings us to...
I thought that, like, For the Chayta Egel, there's no real kapara, so every generation has a degree of punishment for that.
That's correct. That is correct. That is correct. I think I'm finished with that. Okay. What time is it? We're fine, right? Yeah. Let's read Paragimel. So we get the narrative, and then we will begin the section of it a little bit. If we get some of it tonight, if not next week. Hanar Shmuel Meshares Hashem Lifnei Eli. Again, we went through how could he be called Nar? He's 40 years old. So we said, like Yoshua, that Yoshua was 56 when he was called Moshe's Nar.
Avram also calls Yitzchak Nar by the Akedah.
He's 37, and he's 37. Vanar Shmuel Mishares es Hashem lifnei Eli. Well, is he Mishares Hashem, or is he working before Eli? So the Chazal is going to tell us that if you give covet to your Rebbe, it's like giving covet to the Shechina. They learn it from this pasuk, and we'll learn other things from here. Udvar Hashem haya yakar b'yibamahem. Having nevuah was a very precious thing. Very few people had nevuah in this time. Ein chazon nifratz. And there was a certain day. We're talking about 40 years later now. We're talking about Shmuel has been studying under Eli for 40 years. Eli is sleeping where he sleeps. Eli doesn't see very well. The ner Elohim terem yichbeh. The menorah is now blinking out, so it's not a lot of light. Ushmuel shochev behechel Hashem, asher sham aron Elokim. Now, Shmuel is not sleeping in the Mishkan because ein yeshiva ba'azara ela l'malchus beis David bilvad. The Mefarshim are going to tell us Shmuel is sleeping where the Levium sleep, but the Aron is there in the Mishkan. Vayikra Hashem el Shmuel. What's the pshat? Because the voice of Hashem usually comes out bein akruvim from the Aron. But Shmuel hears it, even though he's or it's a chazon, maybe it's through chaloimos, and Shmuel responds, Vayomer hineni. Now, he doesn't know who's calling to him. Vayoratz el Eli. He runs to Eli. Vayomer hineni ki karasali. I'm here, you called me. And Eli says, Vayomer lo karasi. Shuv shchav, I didn't call you, go back to sleep. Vayelech vayishka. Vayosef od kro od Shmuel. Again, Hashem calls out to Shmuel. Vayakom Shmuel vayelech el Eli. Shmuel again goes to Eli. Vayomer hineni ki karasali, you called me. Vayomer lo karasi v'ni shuv shchav. Again, a second time, nobody recognizes what's going on here yet. Eli tells him, go back to sleep. Ushmuel terem yadas Hashem. Shmuel had never had a visitation through Nevuah and Hashem. The terem yigale loved var Hashem. He had never, the Nevuah through Hashem had never come to Eli yet. Vayosef Hashem kro Shmuel bashlishi. So third time Hashem calls out to Shmuel. Vayakam vayelech el Eli. Vayomer hineni. I'm here, ki karasali, you called me. Oh, Vayoven Eli. Eli finally realizes ki Hashem koreh lanar. Hashem is calling out to Shmuel. Vayomer Eli l'Shmuel lech shchav. Again, Eli tells Shmuel, go back to sleep. The haya im yikra elecha. If God calls out to you again, the omarta, you should say daber Hashem. Ki shomea avdecha, and I will, me, your servant, is listening. Vayelech Shmuel vayishkav bimkomo. Vayavo Hashem vayisyatzав. Hashem goes and appears, or is up, he comes and stands. Now we'll have to give a good shot in that. Vayikra kapam b'pam Shmuel Shmuel. He calls him twice, Shmuel Shmuel. What's the significance of the double language? We will go into that at length. Vayomer Shmuel daber ki shomei avdecha. He follows Eli's formula, and he says, I am speak because I am your servant. Now listen to the message that Hashem is giving to Shmuel. Vayomer Hashem el Shmuel. Hinei anochi oseh davar b'Yisrael. I'm going to do such a thing in Israel, asher kol shomo tetzilena shtei oznav. Everyone who hears this, their ears will ring. Bayom hahu hakim el Eli, on this day, I will fulfill to Eli as kol asher dibarti al beiso. Everything I said about his house in terms of destroying it, hachel v'chalei, I'm going to start to destroy it. And Hashem tells Shmuel, Vihigadatalo, you must tell Eli this nevuah. Ki shofet ani et beito ad olam. I am executing this judgment against his house forever. Ba'avon asher yada, for the sin that was committed, that he was aware of. Ki makalim lahem banav, his sons are cursed. V'lo chea bahem. And he did not censor them. He did not give them proper tochacha. V'lachen nishbati lebeis Eli, I swore to the house of Eli, im yiskaper avon beis Eli b'zevechu v'mincha ad olam. I don't care what korbanos and what minchas they bring, it'll never be atoned for. Vayishkav Shmuel ad haboker. Shmuel wakes up in the morning, vayiftach et daltos beis Hashem. One of his jobs was to open up the Beis Hamikdash. Shmuel yarei magidus amar el Eli. Shmuel is fearful. Is he going to say this to Eli? Vayikra Eli at Shmuel. Eli calls over to Shmuel. Vayomer Shmuel b'ni. Shmuel, my son. Vayomer ineni. Vayomer. Ma davar asher diber elecha. What did Hashem speak to you? Al na techached mimeni. Don't hold anything back. Ko yaseh lecha Elokim v'cho yosif. What Hashem does, Hashem does. Such shall God do to you, and such shall he do further. Im techached mimeni davar. Doesn't make a difference. You tell me or you don't tell me, Hashem's going to do it. Don't hold anything back. Mikol hadavar shediber elecha. Vayaged lo Shmuel kol hadvarim. Shmuel tells him, v'lo chichedem, he doesn't hold anything back. Vayomar, Eli says, Hashem hu, hatov beinav yaseh. He is Hashem. He will do what is good in his eyes. Vayigdal Shmuel. Shmuel grew up. Hashem haya imo. Hashem is with him. V'lo hipil mikol dvarav arza. None of his words were cast to the ground.
Can you go up again?
None of his words were cast to the ground. He did not cast any of his words to the ground. We'll have to understand what the pshat of that is. What's that doing here? What do you mean Vayigdal Shmuel? Vayeda kol Yisrael midan v'ad Beersheva ki neman Shmuel l'navi l'Hashem.
So he's no longer a nar.
He's no longer a nar. He's now a navi l'Hashem.
Wow. Wow.
So this concludes, we have a narrative. Eli Pinchas. Eli tries to give them tocha, doesn't really succeed. The hammer comes down through Elkanah or Pinchas to Eli. And then when he's actually going to carry it out, he appears to Shmuel. And that's the first nevuah of Shmuel. The question is, we know Eli's a Navi. Why doesn't Hashem appear directly to Eli? Why does he do it derech Shmuel? And many other the questions that we will go into. What's the double language Shmuel and
not only that, the Eli is so accepting of, a very hard psak against him.
Tziduk Adin. Eli is a tzaddik. Eli is part of the Masorah of Torah Shebal Peh. And therefore we see those attributes as well. Okay. Everyone have a good week. And
Good Chodesh.
And a good Chodesh. And Mirz Hashem will get together next Sunday as well and learn Perek Gimel in depth.
Thank you. It's wonderful to get back.
Yes.
Thank you. Have a good week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.